ERNIE is a great source of information. For example, if you want to go to the department section, you can look up any of the departments we have for any of the campuses. For academic advising, for example, you can click here and access the academic advisors booking links to make appointments. There's a GPA calculator. Another good department to visit, and you'll probably likely frequent, is the Office of the Registrar. So you click on Prescott, and here you'll see that they have the different calendars for the different semesters. They post the catalog and all sorts of other useful academic information. You can even make it a virtual appointment with the registrar staff. Under the Forms tab, you will see that they have a list of other really important forms that you might need. Some of these forms I do have as fillable PDF versions. For example, add drop forms, I have that as a fillable PDF. So make sure you ask me if you're looking for a specific form and it's not the fillable version here. Student support's another great tab with lots of great useful information. The Forms tab at the top of ERNIE is also very useful. It will link you straight. For example, if you want to go here to the Office of the Registrar, you'll see a list of all of their forms. And then Services tab, which is where you would go to get a peer counseling booking appointment. Just click here on College of Aviation and peer counseling booking. So take a look at ERNIE. If something in your tools section is not populating, you can go to all tools and select and personalize your tools section so that way you have the applications pop up that you want to see most frequently. The Academic Advising Report is a great report that really shows you everything that you've met for the requirements, whether you've transferred them in and under this transfer column, if you had testing scores for, like, let's say AP scores, or if you've taken a class here at Embry-Riddle. And so I'm going to show you how to access this report. If you'll notice here, it'll say not satisfied. This student has transfer credits for COM 122 and COM 219 for speech, but the student still needs to satisfy either COM 221 or 222 for this requirement. But this category for humanities lower level, the student has transferred in and satisfied this requirement. And here it would list what university or school that you transferred it in from. So this is just an example of a student's academic advising report that has a lot of transfer credits. Don't panic if you don't have these transfer credits, but this is the report that you're looking for. So in order to access this report, you're going to go to Campus Solutions. Because I am an advisor, I need to switch my screen to Student. And bear with me, I'm going to be looking under kind of my account because I'm also a student with Worldwide. So in order to access this, you're going to click on the Academic Advising tab. And because I am a different student, you won't normally have to click on that. But here you're going to click on Academic Progress. And then over here where it says View Embry-Riddle ERAU Report. And that will bring up this report. I'm not going to click it because then it'll just click on mine. But you'll be able to use this for your academic planning. But I also want you to double check to make sure that everything is accurate when you do have it. And not everybody will have theirs populated just quite yet, so don't panic if you don't have yours populated. If your report comes up, great. If not, hang tight. The Office of the Registrar is still working on double checking AP scores, transfer credits, and it is a long process. So bear with us. If you're not quite sure how your transfer credits have come in, and because you don't have this report just quite yet, just let me know and we can schedule an appointment and we can go over your stuff. So to find the College of Aviation flowcharts, all I want you to do is in this search box here, I want you to type in COA flowcharts, and the Prescott College of Aviation flowcharts link will be right here, so click on that. And then I want you to find your catalog year. So you're going to be the 2020-2021 catalog year. And then you'll see the Bachelor of Science of Aeronautical Science, Fixed Wing Professional Pilot Flowchart, and the AS Fixed Wing Flight Education Flowchart. These are for the helicopters, so ignore those at this time, unless you're a helicopter student. And then we have UAS, Air Traffic Management, Applied Meteorology, Aeronautics, and the Aircraft Dispatcher Certificate. But the one that we want to pay attention to is the Professional Pilot Flowchart and the Flight Education Flowchart. And we're going to talk about the difference between the two in just a moment. You're probably wondering what the main difference between the two flowcharts for aeronautical science fixed wing flight students are. The professional pilot track is all the flight courses up through commercial multi, and with open electives. The flight education track takes some of these open electives and renames them as CFI courses. You are defaulted to the professional pilot track, and we will keep you into this professional pilot track, and I'll talk about that just in a moment in a different area. The flight education track shows you visually how the CFI courses fit into this, and this is kind of nice to use sometimes if you're wanting to do the CFI courses. You can go ahead and use the flight education track flowchart just to visually see. I'll talk about this class right here and how I'm going to have you just kind of rename it as open elective. But the other major difference is that you'll notice that some of the general ed requirements are in a different order. For example, here you have econ, social science, lower level, and in the freshman second semester, and over here it's in the sophomore second semester. I'm not sure why that they're kind of mixed up between the two flowcharts. It really doesn't make a difference. The general eds are kind of just sprinkled in throughout to kind of give balance to your overall academic years. So your flight courses are done sequentially with your ground schools, and you have your Capstone Flow down the middle that I'll talk about a little bit later as well. And of course your comm humanities are kind of down here. And in between all of that, in between all of your rigorous AS classes and weather classes, you have some of these other classes that are sprinkled in here. And those you can kind of interchange and move around as pieces. If a class is full that you're trying to get into, maybe you can borrow from a different column and take something else if it fits in your schedule better that semester. So some of you have heard me talk about the importance of getting your Math 112 and physics requirement done in the spring semester. Everybody comes in with a little bit different of transfer credits or AP credits, and so whatever category you fit into, I want you to make sure that you have your physics and calculus done by the end of your spring semester. And the reason for that is your Capstone Flow right down the middle. We want to be sure that you're taking all your classes and being aware of the prereqs. And so you're not able to take AS 309 and AS 310 at the same time because 309 is a prereq to 310. So you do have to do these in all three separate semesters. Okay, and so what can happen is if you don't do that, and if you're not taking something from this flow right down the middle every semester, you can kind of get behind, and then it'll push out your graduation, or then you're forced to have to take some summer classes. AS 356 is the prereq to 411, which is the prereq to 420, and then your capstone class, your EFMS AS 435. But you will notice that AS 356, the prereq to this class is physics. It is not AS 310. So if you wanted to shorten this, if you are having a little bit of an expedited academic plan because you are coming in with more flight training and you have some transfer credits, and so we're kind of moving you along a little faster, or even if you want to try to shave off a little bit of time, what you can do is potentially double up AS 310 and AS 356 in the same semester and move this up one semester. If you wanted to, you probably could also, depending if it works out and it balances all your other classes, even move AS 356 with 309. That might be a little tough to do considering you might be taking AS 309 with your instrument ground course. And I will talk about your ground courses in just a little bit, but I will tell you that your instrument ground course is a very rigorous course. I can't say that it's the most rigorous course, but it is very rigorous, and there is a lot of memorizing in this course. And I do see students often struggle through this ground course. So I want you to be aware that maybe when you are planning to take instrument ground, you kind of take a little bit of a lighter level. So maybe not take AS 356 with 309 that semester. One question I get often is, when can I take the next level of ground courses for flight? So in order for you to begin a flight course, let's say you're in private and you want to go into instrument flight, you cannot start your instrument flight course until you are either concurrently enrolled in the ground course, which means you're enrolled at the same time as you're starting to fly, or you have already completed it. And so we have to be mindful of when we take the ground courses. If you take it too soon, then you run the risk of forgetting all the content and having to spend a lot more time and potentially money in reviewing while you're in that flight course. So we want to try to keep them in line as much as possible. The flight course before it is the prereq to that ground course. So FA 221 is the prereq to 321. FA 121 is the prereq to AS 221. So you cannot go into this next level of ground until you're finished with the previous flight course. If you're at the very, very end, beyond Unit 40, and the timing of your flight course is that you're at the very end at the beginning of a semester and you're wanting to take this next level of ground so that you can naturally just segue into the next flight course, then you need your training manager's permission. Okay? So for this example, you are in your private pilot course in the fall. It typically takes a student 2 semesters to complete their flight course. So you're not going to take instrument ground in the spring semester. You're going to wait likely until the fall semester. If you stay and you make progress and you're able to complete your flight course or get towards the end, we can explore having you take AS 221 in the summer. You do have to be completely done with FA 121 in order to get into that ground school, or you have to get your training manager's permission if you're close to finishing, and they're going to want to see that you're beyond Unit 40. Okay, so if you're coming to me during registration, I want to get into this next level of ground, whether it's instrument or commercial, you need to see your training manager if you're not finished with your previous flight course. If you're interested in taking the CFI courses and you're interested in this flight education track, I want you to remember that we're going to keep you as a professional pilot track, but that you can use this flow chart to kind of help you design and plan out your classes. The reason why we won't switch you over to this track is because of FA 460, the multi-engine instructor rating. I don't want you to have to extend out your graduation time in order for you to complete this rating. This is something that if you want to do or choose to do while you are working as a CFI for us, you can do that post-graduation, so that way you can go ahead and confer your degree much sooner. And that's the main benefit to keeping you on the professional pilot track and not changing you over. But I do like using this flowchart because it is a great visual for how the flight courses work together. And so what you have is your commercial single engine, your commercial multi, and then your CFI courses. And you can do them in sequence just like this, 321, 323, 421. Or you can do commercial single, hop on over to CFI, and circle back to multi. One thing for certain is that you cannot take the CFI ground course until you have finished your commercial single engine. And that is because you are working on foundational knowledge here that you will apply in this course. If you're at the very, very end of it, you can get your training manager's permission to enroll in that ground school course. If you're in your multi-engine, you would have already completed your single engine. Therefore, you could take this ground course while you're finishing or working on your flight course for multi. And that's something that you can do. And so there are some benefits to doing it either way, whether you go in sequence or you do this circular hopping back over and circling back method. The benefit to doing it in sequence is that you can confer your degree once you're done with your multi. And so if you had your CFI flight course left over, you could still confer your degree. And confer, what I mean by confer, that means graduate. So going to graduation and walking in the ceremony is a celebration, but actually conferring your degree is when you get the diploma, because you've met all of your academic classes. So you could also go from commercial single and hop over to CFI. The benefit to doing that is if you want to get your CFI sooner and you still have a lot of academic classes, you could potentially work as a part-time CFI up to 20 hours a week as a student worker and start getting hours a little bit sooner while you're working, you're still a full-time student as well. If you're done with all your classes and you're at the end of everything and you want to work as a full-time CFI once all your classes are done, then it might be nice to do your commercial single and then your multi-engine first. So there's a couple different ways that you can do that. It sort of depends on how many classes you have left. Are you wanting to kind of extend out your time and work part-time as, work full-time as a CFI and take part-time classes? Or do you want to work part-time as a CFI and take full-time classes? Or maybe you will finish all of your classes and then start working as a CFI. That can sound really confusing. You have lots of choices. And so one thing that we can do once you get to your commercial single engine is go ahead and schedule an appointment with your flight advisor, your academic advisor, and we can talk with you about the best path for you and what makes the most sense. Some students want to wait until they're finishing up their CFI right when they're finishing up their classes so that they are done with everything and then moving into a full-time employment status. And so one benefit that we have, and as long as it continues to be a benefit, and full-time employees get to take 6 credits a semester for free. And one thing that a lot of our flight instructors do is they start working on their master's degrees. It takes about 2 years to finish your master's, and it takes about 2 years to get up to the 1,000-hour mark. So right around the same time that you're finishing your master's, you'll be finishing your hours for your restricted ATP, which is kind of nice. And you're taking 6 credits a semester for free. And I really like to tell students about that nice benefit because You're able to start working on a master's degree. It's a graduate level degree that potentially you can take in something that will be a great fallback plan in case you were to lose your medical, because aeronautical science is preparing you for a path that relies on this medical. And if you were to lose that medical, I want you to think about what would you do, what's your backup plan. And so working on that master's degree once you're a CFI is kind of a nice thing to start thinking about. I can also really appreciate the fact that not every student wants to go that route. Not every student wants to be a CFI, and not every student wants to go for their master's. Whatever path that is right for you is the path that we will discuss and find for you that fits your needs. So talk with your advisor if about the CFI courses once you're in your commercial single, and if you're wanting to talk more in depth or more detail, we can do that. Another question that I often get is, what is the difference between AS 402 and AS 410? You can see that there is an or, and you can choose either one of these classes. So which class is the best one to choose? AS 402 doesn't have any prereqs, whereas AS 410, you'll note that there is a lot of prereqs for this course. AS 402 is airline operations, and AS 410 is your airline dispatch operations. If you add AT 200, which is the only course that's not in your AS Flow, if you add the AT 200 course as one of your open electives, it allows you to sit for the dispatch certificate test. So by taking this class, it allows you to take this test. And if you take the class, I really strongly urge that you take the test as well. And this will allow you an opportunity to get a dispatch certificate so that in the future, if you ever needed to potentially lateral into a dispatch position job for your airline, you have that opportunity to choose that option. One of the benefits to getting your flight training done with Embry-Riddle is that you can qualify for the restricted ATP. And in order to find out what those requirements are, you can simply search in Google ERIU Prescott restricted ATP and then hit enter. And you want to make sure that you're clicking on the one that says Prescott. And so you want the one that says Prescott letter of authorization here. So the second one is a PDF file. So when you bring that up, it tells you all of the requirements to getting that restricted ATP. And then it'll list the majors that qualify for it. And here's the part that I want you to be very mindful about. You have to have 60 credit hours from the approved coursework list. And it is your responsibility to make sure that you are meeting that requirement. Okay, so if you follow your flow chart to a T and you do not substitute or divert from it, likely you will have no issues or problems with meeting those 60 credit hours. What could happen is in very special circumstances, if you need to make some changes, you need to be sure that you're still meeting those 60 credit hours. Okay, and then it lays out everything that you need for that letter of authorization to qualify for that restricted ATP. And so you can see all of the many classes that are listed and how many credits it gives you. And so what I would like for you to do is to Google this, pull up this letter of authorization, print it out, and keep track of all of your classes as you go forward to make sure that you are on track for not only meeting the requirements for graduation, but meeting the requirements for your restricted ATP.